The air, thick and metallic with ozone, was the first assault. Anna registered it, not as the usual harbinger of a day's satisfying end, but as an omen. Then the sound, a jagged crack, not of thunder, but of her world splintering. Her gaze, a professional instrument honed by years, dissecting scenes of distress for Canine Welfare Enforcement, locked onto an unfolding horror. Across the community, green on the second-floor balcony of Mrs. Peterson's prim butter-yellow townhouse, a small, honey-colored form thrashed a desperate silhouette against the bruised canvas of the storm-riven sky. Buddy, Chloe's Buddy. His paws churned nothingness. A single choked yelp instantly devoured by a vicious gust that ripped through the ornamental cherry trees, their blossoms scattering like frightened birds. Eleanor Peterson stood there, a figure seemingly sculpted from glacial ice and incandescent fury. Her knuckles stark white dug into Buddy's scruff. Her face a mask of chilling, almost theatrical resolve. Below, near the communal rose garden, 8-year-old Chloe was a diminutive statue of shock. One hand trembling half-extended in a silent, desperate plea. The other jammed against her lips, a futile dam against the sobs Anna knew were racking her tiny frame. For Chloe, the world contracted to that single terrifying tableau. Wind lashed her hair across her face, stinging her eyes, but all she saw was Buddy. Each gust a malevolent shove. No, no, no! Her mind shrieked a silent scream, trapped in a throat constricted by pure terror. Buddy's fear was a palpable wave, a cold dread washing over her even from that distance. She remembered her own fall, the sudden, sickening lurch of the world, tilting the hard, unforgiving impact. The fear felt the same, now ancient and visceral. Peterson's mouth moved, shaping words lost to the gale, but the venom in her posture, the unsettling glint of something far more complex than simple triumph in her eyes, needed no translation. How had their carefully chosen suburban idyll warped into this waking nightmare? And what labyrinthine rage could drive a woman to dangle a child's fragile lifeline over such a precipice 6 months prior? Willow Creek Estates had promised sanctuary. Clipped lawns, quiet streets a balm for a family weary of city edges. Anna, whose daily work immersed her in humanity's darker dealings with animals, had craved this soft landing. Tom, her husband, an engineer whose projects often took him away, was sold on the schools and sterling reputation. Chloe, their daughter, was the axis of their world. Chloe navigated life with a persistent tremor of anxiety, a lingering echo from a fall down poorly maintained apartment stairs 2 years before. It had left her with a subtle limp and a deep-seated fear of sudden noises of instability. Buddy, the golden retriever, whose calm intelligence shone from his amber eyes, was more than a pet. He was Chloe's certified service animal, her four-legged anchor in a world that too often felt unsteady. His presence was a tangible comfort, his training impeccable. His official blue vest embroidered service animal, usually hung by their front door. Today it lay on Chloe's bed. They'd been in their small, fenced backyard, Buddy free to just be a dog. Then the familiar agitated yapping from Mrs. Peterson's own terrier next door, followed by her shrill voice berating the delivery driver. Chloe, ever sensitive to conflict, had called Buddy inside just as the first metallic scent of the brewing storm had drifted in. She hadn't had time to revest him before the afternoon, and their lives exploded. The harmony of Willow Creek developed its first discordant note a month after the last box was unpacked. Mrs. Peterson, HOA president, materialized beside Anna during an evening walk with Buddy. Leashed Buddy sat patiently. "Ms. Hayes, I presume," Mrs. Peterson's voice crisp as starched linen, her silver hair an unyielding helmet. Her eyes, the pale gray of a winter sky, held a disconcerting lack of warmth. "Anna, please, and your Mrs. Peterson." Anna offered a smile aiming for friendly compliance. "I am," a curt nod. Her gaze dropped to Buddy, lingering. Not with simple disapproval, but with an intensity that felt performative almost. "The animal. You are, of course, familiar with the community bylaws regarding pets." It wasn't a question. "Yes, we are," Anna confirmed. "Buddy is always leashed, and we're very careful about..." Mrs. Peterson interrupted a small dismissive sound. Some residents maintain a particular sensitivity for reasons of hygiene allergies or a simple preference for an environment unmarred by potential disturbances. Her gaze flicked towards a perfect flower bed, as if Buddy's mere presence threatened its pristine order, a familiar prickle of defensiveness. Anna suppressed it. Buddy is Chloe's service animal. She stated her tone even. He's registered, and his presence is essential for her medical well-being. Mrs. Peterson's thin lips compressed further. Service animal or not, Ms. Hayes, the bylaws apply universally. We strive to maintain a certain standard. Any deviation can become a point of contention. We wouldn't want that, would we? Without awaiting reply, she executed a sharp turn, her strong, slightly old-fashioned floral perfume lingering like a declaration. The contention began subtly. Anonymous notes typed, "Canine vocalizations during designated quiet hours." Buddy rarely barked. Another in their mailbox. Unsightly deposit of animal fur on common walkways. Ludicrous, given Anna's fastidious grooming. The phrasing was precise, slightly archaic. It echoed Peterson. Then official HOA emails, signed by Eleanor Peterson, President. "Dear Ms. Hayes, a concern has been raised. Your animal relieving itself on a grass verge not explicitly designated. This despite the verge being opposite, the often muddy, poorly maintained pet relief station." Anna's polite, factual rebuttals, often including photographic evidence or citing specific HOA guidelines, met with terse replies. "Your correspondence has been noted and will be reviewed by the board." Her investigator's thoroughness, she later thought, must have been infuriating. It was during one of these early email exchanges that Mr. Green, a newer board member and something of a sycophant to Peterson, had replied with an unusually sharp, "The president is well within her rights to ensure community standards are met, and frankly, Ms. Hayes, your constant questioning of her judgment is becoming tiresome to the entire board. Perhaps you should review your own adherence to all bylaws." Anna had found his defensiveness disproportionate. The escalation felt both shocking and inevitable. A bright Saturday morning. Chloe and Buddy in their small front garden, Chloe tending daisies, Buddy a golden sentinel. Anna on the porch, coffee in hand. Mrs. Peterson stopped at their low picket fence. "Young lady." Her voice, though not raised, sliced through the air. Chloe flinched, trowel clattering. "Yes, Mrs. Peterson." A reedy whisper. "That animal," Peterson said, her gaze fixing Buddy with a look of profound distaste, "should not be permitted to lounge so close to the public thoroughfare. It presents an unseemly spectacle and, frankly, a potential hazard." Buddy's tail gave a gentle thump. Chloe's hand crept to Buddy's head. "He's just sitting with me. He's my helper." "Helper or not," Peterson's tone hardened, "there are proprieties. Some creatures by their nature are disruptive. It would be best if he were kept contained, exclusively in your rear yard." Anna was on her feet. "Mrs. Peterson," she called, her voice dangerously calm, moving to stand beside Chloe. "Buddy is a service animal on our private property, posing no hazard. Your comments are inappropriate and distressing my daughter." Peterson drew herself up. "I am merely pointing out community standards, Ms. Hayes. Standards you seem determined to disregard." Her eyes flicked to Chloe, a flicker of something cold and appraising. "Children are often unaware of the impact their attachments can have." She turned and continued her stately progression. "She doesn't like Buddy, Mommy." Chloe whispered, tears welling. "She doesn't like me." "Oh, sweetie," Anna murmured, pulling Chloe into a fierce hug. "She's just a very unhappy, controlling woman." But a seed of unease took root. This felt less like a simple dislike and more like a calculated campaign. Her formal letter of complaint to the HOA board, detailing harassment of a minor, met with receipt acknowledged. No apology, no intervention. A community-wide email landed a week later. Urgent revision to common area usage policy. Animal restrictions. Anna's stomach tightened. The new rule, effective immediately to ensure the health, safety, and aesthetic integrity of our shared spaces, prohibited all animals, regardless of designation or certification, from a 20-foot radius around the children's playground and the community-reflecting pool. Buddy was effectively banished from Chloe's favorite spots. The language was carefully couched, but the target was unmistakable. "She can't do this." Tom's voice was tight with anger reading over Anna's shoulder. He'd just returned from a 3-day site visit. "This is a direct violation of the Fair Housing Act. Service animals are not pets." Tom jabbed a finger at the screen. "You know this better than anyone, Anna. This is targeted." "I know," Anna said, her mind sifting precedents. "She's clever, framed it universally." She thought of her work, the cases she'd investigated. She never imagined she'd be living one. "Can Buddy still watch me from the big oak tree?" Chloe asked later, her voice small. The oak stood just outside the new exclusion zone. "We'll make it work, Pumpkin," Anna promised, her heart twisting. The sight of Chloe sitting alone on a park bench, Buddy tethered to the distant tree, became a painful, frequent tableau. Fueled by a cold fury, Anna began to dig. Her investigative skills, usually aimed at animal abusers, now turned towards her own neighborhood. She spoke to other residents. Many were cowed, but some in hushed tones shared stories of Peterson's overreach, her arbitrary enforcement, her quickness to penalize minor infractions, while seemingly ignoring larger issues, or issues involving board favorites, like Mr. Green, whose unapproved fence extension had gone unremarked for months. Mr. Albright, a retired accountant with a keen eye for detail and a quiet disdain for Peterson's autocratic style, became an unlikely, if cagey, source. Eleanor Peterson, he'd said one afternoon, his voice lowered as they sat on his screened porch, the scent of his prize-winning roses, heavy in the air. Has been HOA president for 15 uninterrupted years. An iron fist indeed. But it's the finances, Ms. Hayes. The finances are where things become opaque. He showed Anna copies of HOA financial statements, vaguely described expenditures to a handful of companies for landscaping, pool maintenance, general repairs, amounts often just below the threshold that would trigger a mandatory external audit. He pointed out several large payments to Greenscape Solutions for common area enhancements that never seemed to materialize in checks with cryptic handwritten symbols in the memo line, small, almost runic marks. Mr. Green. "Our esteemed board member has a brother-in-law who runs a landscaping business, you know," Albright had murmured, a glint in his eye. "Purely coincidental, I'm sure." He seemed to be steering her towards Green as the primary source of financial concern. The most startling personal revelation, however, came from Mrs. Davies, one of the older residents. They were discussing Peterson's disproportionate reaction to dogs. "Oh dear, Eleanor," Mrs. Davies had sighed. She was never the same after that dreadful incident when she was a girl. Visiting her grandparents' farm, a big sheepdog, usually so gentle, apparently went for her. Bit her quite badly on the arm. Terrified, screamed the place down. They had to shoot the dog, I heard. She's had a horror of them ever since. Sees them all as monsters, I suppose. Cynophobia. A past trauma. It didn't excuse her current vendetta, but it added a disturbing layer. Peterson wasn't just a power-hungry tyrant. She was potentially a deeply fearful individual. This knowledge didn't lessen Anna's resolve, but it shifted the landscape of the conflict. Peterson wasn't just enforcing rules. She was fighting her own demons. But the performance on the balcony, it felt like more than just raw fear. It felt rehearsed, armed with Mr. Albright's carefully curated financial concerns, which heavily implicated Mr. Green and Mrs. Davies' insight into Eleanor Peterson's past. Anna formally requested a special HOA meeting. She cited grave concerns regarding discriminatory practices, potential conflicts of interest in financial dealings by board member Mr. Green, and the urgent need to address recent bylaw amendments that infringe upon the rights of residents with disabilities. She copied every resident, attaching relevant sections of the Fair Housing Act and an anonymized list of questionable expenditures linked to Greenscape Solutions. The effect was electric. The community forum lit up. Some defended Peterson and Green, but many more expressed shock, demanding answers. Peterson, with Albright subtly stoking the fires against Green in the background, had no choice but to schedule the meeting. The air in Willow Creek grew thick with anticipation. The community hall thrummed with tension. Mrs. Peterson sat on the raised platform, Mr. Green looking pale and furious beside her, and Mrs. Gable, the third board member, appearing deeply uncomfortable. Peterson projected an air of icy indignation. Anna and Tom sat in the front row. This extraordinary meeting, Peterson began, her voice amplified, resonating with a cold formality that did little to hide the tremor beneath, has been convened at the insistent request of Ms. Anna Hayes, who has leveled serious accusations, particularly against Mr. Green's integrity. Her gaze swept over Anna, lingering with undisguised animosity, then shifted to Green with a look that could be interpreted as either support or a warning. "My concerns, Mrs. Peterson," Anna said, rising, her voice clear and steady, "are not just accusations, but questions based on facts and the lived experiences of residents, including my own family. Questions about fairness, transparency, and the equal application of our community's rules." She methodically laid out her case, starting with the discriminatory impact of the playground and pool exclusion rule. A service animal, Mrs. Peterson, is a medical necessity protected under federal law. To deny access is illegal. The board acted to ensure safety for all. Mr. Green interjected, his voice too loud. "Based on what evidence of a threat, Mr. Green?" Tom countered. "Was there a single incident involving my daughter's highly trained service animal?" Silence from Green. A low murmur rippled through the audience. Anna continued, turning to the financial questions, projecting copies of the summarized financial reports, highlighting the payments to Greenscape Solutions. "We have landscaping services totaling nearly $30,000 last quarter to a company with direct familial ties to a board member, yet many residents have noted a decline in upkeep. These are serious questions of potential conflicts of interest and misuse of funds." Mr. Green started to sputter a denial. "This is an outrage." Peterson slammed her gavel. "These are baseless insinuations against Mr. Green. This board operates with utmost integrity." Yet she didn't defend Green with much vigor. "Then provide the detailed invoices for Greenscape, Mrs. Peterson," Anna challenged. "Open the full books for a full independent audit. If there is nothing to hide, Mr. Green should welcome the opportunity to clear his name." The hall erupted. Shouts of "Audit, audit," mingled with cries of "shame," directed at Green. Peterson's face was a mask of complex emotion. Rage, certainly, but also something calculating. She repeatedly banged the gavel. "This board will not be subjected to this witch hunt orchestrated by a troublemaker." She threw down the gavel, stood abruptly. "Mr. Green can defend his own reputation. This meeting is adjourned." She stormed off the platform. Mr. Green, looking utterly betrayed and panicked, and a shaken Mrs. Gable scrambled to follow, leaving a room filled with angry, energized residents, now focused on Green's perceived corruption. As Anna watched Peterson's retreating figure, she felt a profound unease. Peterson had deflected the financial scrutiny masterfully onto Green, but Wyatt felt like a strategic retreat, not a rout. The storm broke as Anna and Tom drove home. They found Chloe subdued. Anna suggested they watch the rain from the covered patio with Buddy, a fragile moment of peace. Then Anna saw her. Eleanor Peterson, drenched silver hair plastered to her skull, striding across the common green face, a pale, contorted mask, making a direct line for their house. Tom," Anna said, low and urgent, "get Chloe inside, now." Too late. Peterson reached their gate, eyes burning with a feverish, almost theatrical intensity fixed on Buddy. She flung the gate open and lunged. "You," she shrieked, voice raw, ragged. "You think you've won. You think you can destroy this community, destroy me." Buddy, startled, barked once, instinctively moving between Chloe and the threat. That bark seemed to be Peterson's cue. With a strength that belied her age, she grabbed Buddy by the scruff, hauling him away from a terrified, screaming Chloe. "No, Buddy!" Chloe's cry was a raw wail. "Leave him alone!" Anna screamed, rushing forward, but Peterson, dragging a struggling, yelping Buddy, was already retreating, not towards her own house, but with terrifying new determination towards the open external staircase of her townhouse block. This was the scene. Peterson on that windswept balcony, dangling a terrified Buddy. "You want to ruin me, Ms. Hayes?" Peterson's voice, amplified by rage and storm acoustics, carried clearly. "You set your sights on Mr. Green, but you meant to destroy all of us, didn't you? You'll see what it feels like to have something precious threatened. This agent of chaos will pay." Chloe was frozen tears, streaming breath in ragged, silent gasps. The world for Chloe was a roaring vortex. Buddy's fear became her fear. Anna was already on her phone, fingers steady. 911, Investigator Anna Hayes, Canine Welfare Enforcement, Willow Creek Estates, 1212 Magnolia Drive. Active Animal Cruelty Penal Code 597A. Eleanor Peterson threatening to drop a minor's service animal from a second-story balcony. Minor present my disabled daughter. Perpetrator highly agitated. Immediate armed response. She gave her badge number. She remembered a case early in her career. A dog she couldn't save from a hoarder. The guilt, a cold stone in her gut. Not again. Not Buddy. "Put him down, Eleanor," Anna shouted. "This is a felony. The police are on their way." "This animal is a menace," Peterson shrieked. "It doesn't belong here." For Buddy, the world was a terrifying swirl of wind rain, harsh hands, and a dizzying height. He smelled Peterson's acrid fear sweat mixed with her cloying perfume, felt the terrifying lack of ground beneath his paws, the wail of approaching sirens. As officers appeared on the stairs behind her, Peterson, startled, took a misstep on the slick balcony floor. She lurched one hand, flailing her grip on Buddy, momentarily loosening. In that instant, Buddy, terrified, but instinctively reacting to her sudden imbalance, twisted and braced his small body against her leg, his paws scrabbling for purchase. He let out a sharp bark, not of aggression, but almost a canine exclamation of alarm. Peterson, shocked, looked down at the dog pressed against her, the dog that had, however unintentionally, just acted as a counterweight, a furry brake against a potentially serious fall. Her face for a fleeting second was a canvas of utter bewilderment. The maniacal fury seemed to flicker, replaced by something akin to stunned disbelief. Then the officers were there. One gently took the terrified dog. Chloe collapsed against Buddy as Anna took him, sobs finally breaking free. Mrs. Peterson was escorted down an officer reciting her Miranda rights. Her protests were now laced with a strange confusion. The dog," she mumbled before lapsing into silence. Eleanor Peterson was charged felony animal cruelty, child endangerment resisting. The balcony dog dangling made headlines. The HOA board dissolved. Mr. Green, facing intense scrutiny from the greenscape scandal Anna had inadvertently highlighted, resigned in disgrace, his own minor corruptions now public. An emergency town hall saw a shell-shocked Mr. Albright elected interim president. His first act authorized a full independent forensic audit of all HOA finances, vowing transparency. The legal proceedings against Peterson were swift. Her xenophobia was presented. The prosecution highlighted her manipulative use of it, but the moment Buddy braced against her on the balcony, captured by a neighbor's fortuitously angled security camera, became a strange, pivotal piece of imagery. Peterson, confronted with the video, was visibly shaken. She accepted a plea: felony animal cruelty, reckless endangerment. Sentence: probation. Intensive psychological counseling, including mandatory supervised animal-assisted therapy sessions, a condition pushed by a judge, moved by Buddy's unwitting intervention, a substantial fine restitution for Chloe's therapy, and a lifetime ban on owning animals. A restraining order barred her from Willow Creek. Her townhouse was sold. Then came the second shockwave. The full forensic audit, far more comprehensive than Albright's initial selective disclosures to Anna, revealed a much deeper, more insidious network of financial manipulation. It wasn't just Greenscape. Multiple vendors, inflated invoices, kickbacks, and the architect, the quiet primary beneficiary hidden behind Peterson's more flamboyant tyranny and Green's petty graft, was Mr. Albright himself. He had expertly used Peterson as a lightning rod, even feeding Anna information to direct her ire towards Green, all while siphoning off significantly larger sums. Peterson, it turned out, had begun to suspect Albright and was on the verge of trying to expose him when Anna's own investigation and the HOA meeting had upended her power. Her frantic balcony scene, while genuinely fueled by her phobia and rage at Anna, had also been the act of a woman who knew her entire world, including her ability to fight back against Albright, was collapsing. Mr. Albright was arrested. The community, already reeling, was devastated by this second betrayal. Some residents, feeling duped and exhausted, quietly blamed Anna for the upheaval, for bringing a storm down on all their houses. The path to healing was far rockier than anticipated. A community rebuilding committee was formed not with a fair, but with difficult meetings arguments and the slow, arduous task of rewriting bylaws and trust. Chloe, with therapy and Buddy's steadfast love, slowly regained her footing. The balcony monster was gone, but the shadows of betrayal in the community lingered. One quiet evening months later, Anna watched Chloe sketching Buddy by the now tranquil reflecting pool. The scent of ozone from a distant gentle rain was just that, a scent. Justice had been served, but it was a tangled, messy affair. The peace in Willow Creek was not the idyllic harmony once promised, but something more real, more resilient, forged in the crucible of shared disillusionment and the hard-won understanding that monsters and saviors could wear unexpected faces, and that sometimes the smallest pause could steady a collapsing world, if only for a moment.